Welcome to part 2 of the 11th Gate of the Star, version 2. I see I didn't put version 2 on the little sign here, but that's what it is. So I'm going to begin to read to you from the actual text that I received in the 1980s. So bear in mind as I read it that that's where I'm coming from at the time. I will pause at certain places to give a perspective update as we go along. What you are to embark upon this day is not merely a meditation, but the beginning of your own personal awakening to the Johannine consciousness. You will receive the first sheath of the divine mantle. It is time now for humanity to respond to the signal that was sent to us eons ago, the signal to awaken, to stir within our cocoons of darkness and emerge winged into the light of our ancestral hive. With the receipt of the first sheath, you are given entrance into the unfolding of your own continuum as a scroll is opened to all the energies, the thoughts, the wisdoms, the star symphonies that compose your spiritual being. Once the first sheath of the divine mantle is taken upon the physical body, so that body begins its acceleration at a cellular level to quicken and respond to the soul's flight to light. By the will of the soul, this journey can take you through the other 6 sheaths, becoming completed in the 8th octave or harmonic, wherein the entire mantle of the dove, the 7 sheaths, and the 8th or infinity moment is reached. This complete process will require dedication, faith, and patience. My benefactor, Thoth, who founded through me at the time the Star of Isis Foundation Mystery School, which is now the New Earth Inner Academy, and more recently its Spiritual Center, and again I'm giving the Church of the Johannine Wellspring, which is now Spirit Heart Sanctuary, has bestowed upon me the empowerment of Johanna, or minister of this church, to anoint you with the first sheath of the divine mantle through the office of the Johannine Wellspring. Now we're going to pause here and talk about this. The Johannine Wellspring is still with me. It's still in my field. I've changed names along the way because a lot has happened in life. The name Johannine Wellspring was changed to accommodate my work with my then, later, now former husband, Simeon Nartumid, and the work we did together. It was another vibration. I've gone through a lot of different vibrations in my space, and because this is coming through me and is part of my Merkaba, these titles are changed, and Thoth gives a nudge here and there where they change and why they change. However, he's pointing out to me that the Johannine Wellspring is still within my being and is still a vibrating frequency of the whole. These aren't discarded because you move to another frequency. More and more is being brought through to be presented to the world, so to speak, through you. I say me, it could be you that are listening to this because you're going through your own things. You know, this is not exclusive to me by any means, this process. And so the Johannine is still within me. So when I speak these words that I wrote at this time, and I'm bringing them forth now in 2018, it's opening that scroll again. So I am the Johanna, or minister of the Johannine Wellspring, still, because I'm wearing that robe right now, that sheath of my own. Another thing I wish to mention here. This sounds extremely grandiose. It sounds like you're going to listen to this video and my gosh, you're just going to start walking on water, you know, and go right into the New Earth Star. These are the potentials that are given for any quickening administration that aligns to this principle. And so you can listen to this video as we're going to be doing it, the actual process, which is coming up in another one of the series here. And you can go, well, that's nice. That made me feel pretty good. Now on to the next thing. And maybe 3 or 4 years from now, something could happen in your life that reconnects you to what you received here, even if you don't even realize it, and gives you a tremendous boost into that acceleration. Not the whole way probably, but a big boost. Or you could listen to this video right now, or the video to come, I mean, and it could really give you that boost right now. You see, everything that we receive of spirit and light, because we're going to address that right now, has its own way of moving into the fabric of your consciousness and life. And we need to understand that all time is one, and we are receiving that consciousness incrementally. So I don't want to belabor this point too long. It's a topic unto itself. But be open to the fact that what you're receiving with this really rather simple process, why Thoth is making such a big deal of it here, is because this is the potential of the entire timeline frequency that you're tapping into when you listen to this. What is your soul going to do with that? And how is it going to lay it out into the fabric of your being? And what is it going to connect with you to maybe 3 or 4 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, maybe tomorrow, maybe right in the moment? And how is that going to play out through the whole field of your incarnational experience? Now, that would stand true for anything of spirit and light that you receive. You go to a workshop, or you go, you listen to this, you're on Gaia TV and you're listening to that. These things enter your field at different sequencings and patterns and placements, but receiving it in the first place is that first breath. So when you listen to this, you're receiving that first breath. Okay, so now I'm going to continue with the reading. I apologize that my voice is a little grainy today, but I'm not going to let that stop me, because I feel now is the time to do this, and so I'm going to do it. So we continue here. The 11th gate of the star is a process of receipt in which the initiate passes through 20 significance of his/her being as he/she rises into union with the higher form of divine self, the octave of which is the divine mantle. Although we enter this initiation before the 1111 doorway has opened. So this would be on January 11th, 1992. I said I did this in the 1980s. I think I probably did, but I might have done it closer to the 11/11 of 1992. So I'm not sure, folks, but it's in there somewhere. And obviously I'm saying here, whenever I wrote this, that we're entering it prior to the 11/11 doorway. We all remember the 11/11. Well, those of us that are old enough to, and that whole process that took place. And Solara was really key to that whole dynamic. And she read my material and communicated with me on it at the time, feeling that we were really in line with the same frequency. And so it's saying that this opens on the 11th of January 1992 and closes on December 31st, 2011. Now, it's interesting that when I decided to do the first video series, it was just before December 31st, 2011. So, and I didn't even realize that when I started to do it, and I looked down and went, whoa. So that was pretty powerful unto itself. But now we're coming around again, and we're going to do it now in 2018. There's probably a significance. This would be June 27th, 2018, that we're doing it now. At least that's when I'm beginning it here. In any case, I'm going to continue now. As you enter the grand passage of the 11th gate, so you will continue to reenact this ceremony and ascension as a reverberation through time until the closing of the 11:11 in the year 2011. Well, now, Thoth stated to me when I redid the video in 2011 that this was a continuation of that reverberation field. So you know what I'm beginning to receive here is that the field has completed now. And so now in 2018, we're starting it again by reading the whole thing over again. Maybe we need a new one at some point in time. I have a feeling the next time I redo it, I'll be doing it perhaps with a new dynamic, rewritten. I'm just guessing, but that would seem to be appropriate. But right now, we're going to do the same text again. And this for the third time. Second time on a video, but third time putting it out there. So, to continue again, you place your place of initiation as an etheric pyramid temple, which was magically overlaid with the Great Pyramid of Giza by its master builder and office of authority for Maya, light work, Thoth, Racemus of Afra, meaning one who arises from the altar place. He was known as to the Greeks as Hermes Trismegistus. The etheric pyramid template of Giza is Azurel, A-Z-U-R-E-L, meaning Temple of the Morning Star. This is the etheric overlay temple of the temple of the risen one, Aka, the temple of the lion, which is also the pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza. And so, if we go to G.A. Gaskell's Dictionary of All Scriptures and Myths, morning star is defined as a symbol of the expression of truth on the higher mental plane. By morning is signified the coming of the Lord. By stars are signified knowledges of good and evil. Jesus is the bright and morning star, Revelations. It means that what the world has seen in Jesus is the ushering in of the dawn of a higher spiritual consciousness for all mankind. He comes to show us what we are and what we shall be, unquote. So now I continue with my text from the Ibenu, I-B-E-N-U, a text of the Atlantean Hor-Ar-Himkis, wow, which lies within the Hall of Records beneath the Temple of the Lion, Aka, the Temple of the Risen One, the Great Pyramid of Giza. It is written, thus did the Thoth, the Great One of Afra, anchor the morning star to the rudder of the solar boat of the lion, so that he of the morning star, the Lord of 1,000 suns, may make sacrifice of his light to the world. We who now enter the holy sanctum of the Temple of the Morning Star will walk with the lion. This is to enter into one's own power and emancipate that power, sending it as a golden arrow into the spirit heart of the risen Christos, the light in the center of darkness. The two initiators are Thoth and the hidden master. These entities are represented archetypally in the Tarot as the magician and the fool, respectively. In the Zultun Tarot by Peter Ballin, which will be our primary archetypal guide tool for this journey, the archetype of the magician becomes the sorcerer. Peter Ballin writes that, and I'm quoting Peter Ballin here, the sorcerer manifests the principle of unity, the origin of which is unknowable to the human consciousness. The sorcerer, as the word implies, stands at the source of the unknown, seeing it, feeling it, using it, but never able to explain it. He manifests the unknown in the know. The sorcerer is a light to others and never seeks to know why. He manifests. And that's the end of the Balaam quote. So I say, the fool of the Zultan Tarot, well, again, a quote, manifests the first unconscious act of a separate self, breath, unquote. That's from Balaam. And I say, Thoth says, however, unlike most interpretations of the Tarot, including the Zultun, Thoth informs us that there's a higher quality to the fool that is only presented to those who reach for it, and this is the hidden Christ, or the illumination that is concealed by the ignorance of a world or consciousness not yet able to interpret its truth, and therefore views it as foolish or indecipherable. In the Handel Tarot, that's Haindl, probably spelling it wrong, Handel Tarot, the fool is shown with a wounded swan. Rachel Pollack writes of this Handel image. Okay, let me pause a moment because I'm getting a little confused myself here. I didn't spell it wrong. I probably pronounced it wrong, but it's Haindl. And Rachel Pollack, as I understand it, is not the creator of Handel's images, but she is the one that is interpreting it in what you can buy online as the Handel Tarot. So, the fool is shown with a wounded swan. Rachel Pollack writes of this image, we see an animal sacred to the goddess of love, but the animal is wounded, for it cannot fully understand love until we experience the reality of suffering. We cannot fully understand love. The wound is vertical. It points upward and downward toward the universal knowledge. This symbolizes the double-sided quality of suffering. While it helps forge the individual personality, it also links us to humanity. The fool's finger touches the wound, and to the world, finally lifting us beyond individuality to a union with all life. We see the connection between the wound and evolved consciousness in the swan's body. Through the neck, though the neck twists in pain, it forms a spiral curling into the sky. Consciousness does not ascend in a straight line, but spirals upward like the whirling dances of the Sufi dervishes. The golden beak, however, does point almost straight up, a kind of arrow directing us to the stars and planets. The swan's left wing arches upward, creating both a frame for us to view the sky and a kind of staircase, as if we could climb to the heaven through the experiences of love and pain. With his rune of joy, the fool embraces all life, including suffering. He dances through the experience, finding the secret joy in the heart of all existence. I'm going to turn a page now. Sorry, it's an old book and it rattles a lot. As I read this quotation from Ms. Pollack's passages on these images of the fool, I am struck by the similarity of the description, this is me speaking, form and spiritual process of the pyramid temple of the Lion of Giza and its template temple of the Morning Star. Our initiators, then, are the magician sorcerer, the ibis-headed Thoth Hermes, manifester of light flowing and taking form, and the fool, a hidden master who is the wounded swan, the light inflowing into the wound of the world as a sacrifice of healing. According to Gaskell, the ibis is a symbol of the higher mind upon the lower mind and astral nature, and the swan is a symbol of the higher self or individuality. We find these two initiators within ourselves as we begin our journey, our voyage to the 11th gate of the star, and through the other gates to reach that. one who is manifest through higher thought, and one who is divine nature unmanifest within the embodiment of the world. The latter is that which is sacrificed, wounded for the purpose of resolution between the lesser and greater selves. We find also in the archetype of the fool, the Egyptian Osiris, and we have our Osiris arising now, who was killed by his brother Set, cut into 14 pieces and scattered through the land. It was the duty and magnificent obsession of his sister wife Isis to find the 14 parts of his body, and with them reassembled, resurrected his formal being. I think I missed something here. Let me try that again. We find also in the archetype of the fool, the Egyptian Osiris, who was killed by his brother Set, cut into 14 pieces, and scattered throughout the land. It was the duty and magnificent obsession of his sister wife Isis to find the 14 parts of his body, and with them, reassembled, resurrect his formal being. Osiris is depicted as of dark complexion, or black in color. Sometimes he's green. He is a hidden master, who is not able to reveal himself to the world of the profane. In our scenario, we begin with the sorcerer. He gives us a manifest spiral to ascend. From the perspective of the world, we ascend in reverse, from the manifest to the unmanifest, for it is to the realm of Osiris that we are in flight. This is really interesting because, of course, I wrote this many, many, many years before I was handed by Thoth the Osiris Arising project and the understanding of all of that, which came to me consciously about 3, going on 4 years ago now. And here we have this coming forward in this particular process. Now, I would also like to say that I don't believe, that's my impression from Thoth, that the 11th gate of the star is not something that he just brought forward for me to bring forward to all of you in the late 80s or early 90s. This is adapted from original ancient process. So yes, it's in the form it's in here, using Peter Bellin's symbology and some of the things that come forth. Yeah, it's a new process, but it is related to directly to a true divine receiving of the divine mantle going back eons in time. I don't know how far, he's never really addressed it here. That would be something interesting to bring up. Maybe we'll continue the series with something like that. I don't know. But the point is, I think this is, I'm almost sure it's based on an ancient process. So now, we are going to begin with the actual process itself, which I'm going to place on another video. So this concludes part 2, and we will go to part 3.